Welcome to Speaking Cinema, a serious movie jibber jabber, a movie podcast, coming to you from our sleepy little Detroit suburb by the way of Hollywood, California. Take off your shoes, don't step on the bodies.
Light a candle, cover the smell.
Follow us on social media at Speaking Cinema. Listen to us jibber jabber every single Monday via your local podcatcher or wherever podcasts are streamed. I am your host, strict disciplinarian, Mr. Jibber Jabber. Hosting with me today, as always, that GTO driving, heart listening, heartthrob himself, Kevin.
Me to a T. Me to a Pontiac T.
Do you think that if you were a child of the 70s, you'd have some sweet 70s cars?
Oh yeah, I'd get a GTO or a Pontiac or a Nova. Something bad.
Would you be wearing bell bottoms?
I mean, probably.
I think
just because everybody did. I might do the. I might stick with the boot cut jeans though. Classic look. And yes, I would have cowboy boots on.
Underneath the pants?
Of course. No.
Or tucked in?
No, not tucked in. Under the pants.
I want to tuck them in. Let's tuck them in.
I like the reveal. You know. But a couple times I've had people go, "Hey, those are cool shoes," and I'm like, "Oh, but check this out." They're like, "Oh, it's boots." Cowboy boot life, folks. Get on it.
This week on the Jibber Jabber, we're continuing our Grab by the Girly season, a season curated by ladies, featuring movies for ladies, in which we give them our male perspective.
The only perspective we're qualified to give.
And some may question that. And that's not without its own merits.
Exactly.
Our lady picture this week, beautiful, mysterious, haunting, and very to be fatal, just like life. 1999's The Virgin Suicides. That's a lot of interesting taglines.
We've had some. That Clueless one does not fit that movie at all.
Yeah.
And that From Here to Eternity one is just a mouthful to say, and this one is also just kind of strange.
They're very strange. Kind of they speak to like the theme of the movie. I feel like more than our usual.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
They left him for dead and he wants revenge.
Cowboy zombie, you know? I feel like the ones that we usually do kind of shows the difference of choices that
exactly.
we're going
The way it is an interesting look at how they market.
Nothing will ever beat Unfriended, though.
What was the one for Unfriended?
There was like 70. Remember?
Oh God, yes. They couldn't decide on anything.
I think they just knew that, you know, every poster's an opportunity, every ad's an opportunity.
Yeah. The
Virgin Suicides, written and directed by Sofia Coppola, based on the book by Jeffrey Ugalese?
Yeah, that's not a last name, so.
Starring Kirsten Dunst, James Woods, Kathleen Turner, Josh Hartnett, Scott Glenn, and Danny DeVito. Produced by American Zoetrope and distributed by Paramount. If you're not familiar, a group of friends in the 1970s suburban Detroit are enchanted by 5 mysterious girls who are kept sheltered by their strictly religious parents. This is Sofia Coppola's directorial debut. Kev, did you know that?
I did know that, yes.
I did not know that.
I don't know. You learned something.
I don't know what I thought it was, but that is I'm reading this and learning all kinds of things. Sofia Coppola, has had parts in such films as Peggy Sue Got Married and The Godfather Part 3, everyone's least favorite Godfather.
I think it gets a bad rap, but there are some very questionable moments in that movie. However, the ending is a good ending to the saga, I believe.
Godfather, the whole trilogy directed by her dad, Francis Ford Coppola. Of course.
Also, this is our second episode where we referenced The Godfather in
what was
our girly season. I mean, From Here to Eternity, we talked about Horsehead and Johnny Fontaine and all that. Look at that.
We should
sneaking in.
We should try to talk about The Godfather in every episode and never do The Godfather.
There we go.
There it is. She also plays the baby in the infamous baptism scene from the first Godfather because she had just been born and they needed a baby.
Just one convenient baby.
And then, she really knocked it out just, being a baby.
Yep.
Sophia adapted the script for The Virgin Suicide based on her own hopes of making the film, but was heartbroken to discover that the book's movie option was owned by another company. Undeterred, she sent the script to that company, and they preferred it to the one that they had. A plus B worked together.
And then a little help from her dad, and she landed that sweet directing gig.
Though no other company is credited with the movie, so I'm not sure what happened with the rights on that. But
True.
with a little help from her dad, Sophia secured the director's chair, and her debut film was underway. This film has had very positive reviews. Her career took off. It has played at the cemetery.
Ooh, has it?
Yes. So a movie is great when people play it outdoors in the summertime.
Yep.
Because that means 2,000 people will watch this movie that they could easily watch at home at a place that they had to drive to and had to bring food to and had to sit through with strangers.
Yep. That says something.
Without a marketing campaign.
Without a marketing campaign.
That
you gotta
says
be in
everything.
The know, so.
She went on to direct such films as Lost in Translation, Marie Antoinette, Somewhere, and The Bling Ring. Next up, remake of the Western The Beguiled.
I heard about that, actually.
Very interesting. I wouldn't think of her as someone who would do remakes, and not that I wouldn't think of her as someone who's doing a Western. I'm pleasantly surprised that people are like, "Oh, I want to do a Western."
Yeah, she has tackled something different in every film, which I always want to see a director do. So, good stuff.
And I completely agree. And she's also known for her wine sublabel, Sophia Coppola, which comes with little canned champagnes, which, and I am no wine expert, Kev, you know that. But people seem to love those little fucking things.
Yes, they do. And I believe one of Francis's wines is named after her.
Yes.
There's Sophia
from
the Coppola Vineyards.
The way the marketing, it makes it seem like it's her wine. I don't want to say that it is or isn't. Because, I know that he owns the vineyard. I'm not really sure how hands-on he is. Again, not a wine guy. Very interesting, though. And that wine you see it everywhere.
Oh, yeah. It's at Ralph's.
Yeah, and it has a good reputation, too.
Yeah. Christy likes it.
Yeah,
She's a wine connoisseur, so.
As of this recording, this film is available on physical and digital media for purchase and is streaming on Netflix in America.
Actually, no, it's not anymore.
Oh!
It was listed incorrectly on Rotten Tomatoes as saying streaming. So.
Son of a bee. Well, check it if you're listening to this and you give a shit.
It's been on there a few times, so
yeah.
It's not like it's never streamed on Netflix. So keep an eye out for it. It's out there.
Kev, have you heard of and have you seen The Virgin Suicides?
Not only have I seen it, I own it. In my collection.
You're part of your Sophia Coppola?
Yeah, I have her first 3 movies. Virgin Suicides, Lost in Translation, Marie Antoinette. So.
And then you fall off, or?
As we'll keep. I'll explain.
Okay. Sophia. I have not seen this. I of course heard of this movie. I have not seen it. But I did read the book.
Oh, you read the book?
I read the book.
I've not done that.
I will say I read the book a number of years ago now. I remember very little about it other than, spoiler alert, there may or may not be some suicides. And I really felt like when I read it, I did not get it.
Sure.
So we'll see if this film adaptation
sheds a little light.
Makes
you connect.
And then in terms of the work of Sophia Coppola, I've seen Lost in Translation, which I liked.
I like that movie a lot more when I was older, I will say. Because I saw it in theaters in 2003 when it came out. And remember thinking, like, that was good, but I don't quite get the hype around it. And then now that I'm more experienced, have had relationships that were good and bad, I really kind of connected to it more when I watched it as a much more world-weary person. So...
It's interesting. I should revisit it. I saw it on DVD like 2005 maybe, or 2004, and I liked it. But again, I'm with you. I was like, I like this movie, but it's not blowing me away. But then at the time, I really liked Boondock Saints, so I don't know what my taste level was.
We all went through bad periods.
So it's interesting. She's celebrated. She's also. I think people like to deride her a little bit. She
does come from privilege and
part of the family. I think that's part of it. I think she makes movies that are not traditional movies. Like Marie Antoinette is a very stylized experience.
A film I really love that a lot of people really don't like,
right?
Because I think they kind of miss the point of what it's about.
And I remember when her last movie came out, The Bling Ring. I remember a lot of people didn't like it. I think that movie. It's in capturing those people who did it. It felt very authentic and real and good. It's kind of like, but like, do I want to listen to what these people have to say? is like, so it's like you got Emma Stone, not Emma Stone,
Emma Watson.
Doing her take on like, when my side of the story comes out, blah blah blah, and then obviously they're just fucking thieves.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just like it's kind of like it's a tough topic to make enjoyable,
Sure.
but a well-made movie undeniably.
And I haven't seen it.
Oh,
Can you believe that? I need to check it out. But yeah, I thought her only real stumble I thought was Somewhere, which is a movie a lot of people liked. But I thought it was a little too... I get that she's trying to tell this sort of directionless, lackadaisical story because it's a directionless, lackadaisical person, but it doesn't necessarily make for an enjoyable movie.
And that's an interesting thing that you say. There's a lot of her topics seem to be things that are like purposely hard. You know what I mean? Like,
sure,
you're making a movie about Marie Antoinette, and because it's from her POV, there's going to be some empathy for that character. And it's one of the least empathetic,
of course,
people from history. Like, even if you don't think it's fair that she got murdered, by a riotous mob, she's not a nice person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, what that movie really explores is that she'd do what any teenage girl would do in that position. She got too much power and too much influence with not enough of a drive to like actually be a leader, so she just indulged all of her fantasies.
Right. And then you have Somewhere, which stars Billy Zane, right?
Stephen Dorff.
Stephen Dorff, even better. So Stephen Dorff, who is playing a guy who's directionless, who's kind of an actor who's directionless,
yep.
And he's like hanging out at the Chateau Marmont, not 1 mile up the road from where we currently are.
With a cameo from Benicio del Toro.
Nice.
He might have just been there. You never know.
Yeah, so it's like, most movies are about the most exciting day in a person's life, when aliens invade, when they find out that they're pregnant, when they get married, whatever. This is about, a guy, in a transition. So she it's interesting. I don't know if people recognize that. Like, she kind of makes movies about tough things to make movies
For
about.
sure.
So
how do you make a movie that takes place mostly in a hotel in Tokyo?
Right.
Make a compelling love story out of it.
And with a man who's clearly, and they're acknowledging clearly is older than this girl. That's part of the story. Because in most movies, it's like he's 50, she's 20, and we're not saying a goddamn word.
Yep. No, they very much make that a fabric of the story.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I think she kind of gets a bad rap.
I think so.
In some ways, and in a way that is, you don't like her movie. It's like when Marie Antoinette at Cannes was supposedly savaged, and then Roger Ebert said it wasn't, and it's like, how can this be a debate? Were you there? What happened?
Yeah. And I think, again, it stems from her with that privileged upbringing, but you also write and do what you know, right?
Yeah.
And that's the life that she knew. Like, she was never not part of the Coppola family, and she was born when The Godfather came out, so her dad was starting his, like, run of 5 straight masterpieces that he made. Four straight masterpieces that he made.
Dracula don't count? Dracula don't count?
That was one from the heart. But yeah, it's like she's doing what she knows. She doesn't know what it's like to grow up in rural Ohio and make it big. So it's just, she's going to write stories about things that she understands.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Kirsten Dunst, this is our first film featuring another Hollywood starlet that we've never covered, Kirsten Dunst.
Yes.
She got her start as a child actress, has been in both big budget movies, Spider-Man, independent films, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Melancholia. So a very jumping back and forth career. She's, what do you think of her? Are we over Spider-Man 3?
I'll never be over Spider-Man 3 because it's terrible.
I agree with you, but
she was not the problem.
Yeah, is it her fault? No. Flatly no. Is it really anyone? It's like
there are 8 million things wrong with that movie that don't involve any of the actors.
Yeah. So it's tough. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Also, if you people are mad at Tobey Maguire for singing a song on a piano, but if Sam Raimi in the studio says, "Hey, bro, sing that song on the piano," I mean, what do you fight? You know,
do it. So you sign the contract. No, I think she's a really underrated actress. Actually, she's very. Again, she can roll in any kind of these, either like I said, like a Spider-Man, or she can do a Lars von Trier depressing drama like Melancholia. She can kind of handle herself in any way and play a lot of different types of characters too. And then she can do Bring It On, which is, you know, this great little teen comedy, and completely carry it.
And she's crossed over to TV too. She's in Fargo.
She was in season 2 of Fargo, so which I wasn't a big fan of that series, but her role was very good, and she did because she had to kind of play. I don't know if you've ever seen the original Fargo, but she's kind of the Jerry Lundegaard character in that. So it's on the surface a very nice, like, you know, oh gee shucks, Minnesotan, but like just below that first layer of the onion is some super dark shit.
Wait,
so.
he's the dude in the first one, or a girl in the first one?
No, Jerry Lundegaard is William H. Macy's character.
Oh,
in the original movie.
So they changed the gender on us.
I'm saying
Is it that style?
She's that type of character.
She's not that literal. I got it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm catching up.
You're getting there.
Kev, have you ever been to Detroit?
Never have. Although I kind of want to.
Why?
It used to be one of the great cities. Used to be. But there's a lot of history there, and it's in a part of the world I'm not very familiar with.
And you want to just buy a house for $2,000?
Sure, why not? There might be some dogs in it, but you just chew them out.
According to what you've told me, there is a style of pizza native to Detroit.
I just learned this actually.
And you're saying it's it's a pan pizza.
Pan pizza, kind of Sicilian style.
So,
but they really burn the cheese on the end, so that kind of makes a crust. And then it's kind of upside down, where they put like the toppings, the cheese, and then the sauce.
So it's much more of a pizza pie in a literal sense of a pie.
Yes. From what I've seen. I've never had it. Looks interesting though.
So it's kind of like the slimmer cousin of a deep dish.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit of a little bit deep dish, a little bit Sicilian kind of
mix together
marriage. So,
I'm interested. I've never had good deep dish pizza. I would love to have some good deep dish pizza.
I've heard some places in LA that have it.
Really?
I forget the names, so we'll have to. But they're little out of the way places, so you gotta. I think actually one is called Hollywood Pie. I think they do like,
and it's in Eagle Rock.
It probably is.
And also, I think you will agree with me here. I'm not interested in the tyranny of someone's. Like, my favorite kind of pizza is New York pizza. I like that style.
Yeah.
But I like a thin crust. I like an authentic, authentico.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like all the other weird shit. It's pizza. Let's not get political with pizza.
Yeah, the pizza elitism is old.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's pizza. It's good. Pizza's good.
Mm-hmm. Also, with my newfound vegetarian-based, plant-based diet, that I'm not having meat, but I'm having a lot less meat. I've
medically mandated diet.
Yes, I've discovered the joys of a good cheese pizza, and what I've realized is, people say like, there's no such thing as a bad home run, there's no such thing as bad pizza. Yeah. There is such thing as bad pizza.
Oh yeah, there's bad pizza.
It's called Mama Celeste.
Shade.
Boboli, also not a pizza I like.
Oh yeah, yeah, very bad.
So interesting. Back to the topic at hand, because we can talk about pizza literally all night.
We can do a pizza podcast.
Yeah, serious pizza jibber jabber. Serious pie jibber jabber. Serious. We'll workshop it.
Yeah.
What are your expectations going in on this upcoming watch?
I haven't watched it in a while, so like most things I've already seen, see if I can get a new perspective on it. Mm-hmm. See, is just kind of like Lost in Translation. As I have gotten older, will I get something else out of it now?
And I just want it. I want to enjoy it. I want it to be good. That's very broad. I just want to like it.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want it to be evocative kind of a movie. Whatever that entails. So before my computer crashes, let's get out of here and let's watch this movie.
Hang loose. Here we go.
And we're back. Kev, did you watch this movie as we Virgin Suicides as was requested?
Is that why we're here?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yes, I did watch it.
Your own Blu-ray?
DVD. I have not upgraded the Blu-ray.
I also watched it on DVD. I was not in a great mood on that day.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Are you a sour puss?
Nah, I wasn't feeling it.
All right.
And as I mentioned in the first part, I was watching it and I'm like, yeah, I don't remember any of this book. I remember like a couple of little details, but like after they happened, so it was like, oh, she wrote this boy's name on her underwear. I'm like, oh right, that was in the book.
Yeah.
So it really, other than I knew where it was ultimately ending up with them killing themselves, that's the only thing I remembered.
Gotcha.
But everything else was pretty much like, oh right, did he go to prom and
They smoked some dubs and burned her Kiss records.
Oh, such a good.
Also, it was hotter than hell. That's one of the weaker ones. So
Hey, she loved it.
she loved it. So
Kev, overall thoughts, Virgin Suicide.
really liked this film. Don't know if I gained kind of a newfound appreciation for it watching it in my older age, as I described in our expectations for it, but it is a very soundly constructed, acted, shot film, and amazing that it's a debut. So you can tell she's got the Coppola genes going through there.
I have to echo what you just said. The fact that this is someone's first movie is a bizarre miracle.
Very
right?
impressive.
I think this movie is a great movie. It's very evocative, supremely well made, tight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's slow, but not in a pejorative way. It's not. It's slow is often.
It's steady.
Yes, exactly.
Steady.
Slow is often a insult that this movie is too slow.
Yeah.
This is deliberately slow. This is a train going through a mountain pass.
Mm-hmm.
It's going the appropriate speed for what we need to do at the time.
Yeah, it's not Clueless that's flying down the track, which,
Right.
works for Clueless, and that's perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also not From Here to Eternity, which is a broken down car. It
Yeah.
just moves at that good steady
Shade.
clip, right where it gets shade on you, Burt Lancaster.
It's very deliberate, very thoughtful. I don't think that it's boring. I think when something is slow, you risk being boring. This
People
is not boring.
always equate slow with boring. It's one of my biggest pet peeves about movie criticism.
Well, and that's because when something is badly, that's the difference. It's the difference between something being steady and something being slow, right?
Yeah.
In the context, are we on the train track or are we on the freeway? And I say, and I think this, I truly and deliberately, I think that this is deliberately a movie that exists, and it's up to your interpretation as to what it's really about.
Sure.
And I think that is a pinnacle of the genre of movie making, right? You could do that. You could do that in a lot of different genres. You could do that in a painting. You could do that in a book. You could do that in a movie. But a movie really lends itself to that because you are observing people, so you can really make things open ended in a way that's much more difficult in other mediums, right?
Sure.
And
Because our eyes are trained to, when we see something, that's the truth.
yes,
So it's very hard to make something that is believably open-ended or that can sway you in one way, that someone can read it totally differently than somebody else.
Right.
You know?
But then something like a book, you could have someone have an internal monologue, right? So they can do something.
You can devote pages to
Right.
an internal monologue.
Right, and you can devote pages to someone saying something stupid and then hating themselves, right? And in a movie, you only have a little bit of time to get away with that, right? You can't have a 10-minute monologue about how they fucked up one moment.
Yep.
And that's just the way the medium is. There's no better way to talk about this level of interpretation as to the big question of the movie, which is, why do you think they killed themselves?
Because if you cage a bird too long, eventually it's just going to die one way or another.
I agree.
And you just...
But I think there's other ways to interpret this movie,
Sure.
Depending on how you feel about young girls, suburbia. What you see in this movie, right? To me, things that stand out. Crucifixes and religious stuff everywhere.
Yep.
Suburban living. They're kind of more on the rich. It's a rich area. There's like coming out parties.
Like Grosse Pointe, it's called, which I think is kind of a little higher class suburb of Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but I think that there's no coincidence that after they're all dead, the swamp bubbles over or whatever, and the theme is asphyxiation for the coming out party.
mm-hmm.
In that word, asphyxiation, I think that is the whole thing.
Yeah, suffocate, die. It's kind of, there's like the symbol of the tree that they're saying, oh yeah, this tree is dead, but and then they plug the hole, which helps kill the tree, and then it's just they're like, this thing's just dead.
Wait, so what was that? I don't know. I don't even understand
Well,
that.
I'm no tree removal expert. I have to ask my cousin on this one. But
Who is?
Yeah, he worked for a tree removal service. He used to. He's a welder now. So, but yeah, I think that's some kind of whatever that paste is something that helps kill the tree. It makes it easier to cut down. So it's again another form of asphyxiation, suffocating, killing something, not letting it just be part of its natural habitat, which in the world of this movie is just being a teenager. Both male and female. I don't, whereas Clueless kind of focuses on a female-centric teenage life, this one really looks at both. It's both male and female. It looks at what it's like to be a young boy pining for love, standing on your balcony and jumping off like poor Dominic does.
No, so that the way that is shot is just perfect.
And the sound design is great when he lands. It's just kind of a
yeah.
It's not this big grand statement. He just kind of falls in the shrubs. But then also, of course, very female-centric look of, and through the eyes of girls that don't get to live that normal life for whatever reason. Their mom is super religious, which something I kind of realized about this. The dad really isn't in on that so much. But he kind of is just this beta male who follows along.
Well, I was gonna wait until after, but so I watched a special feature, the making of.
Yeah.
So the writer said the movie is about voyeurism and the obsession of teens, and they both said there is no textual, literal answer. Right? There's no like. I'm sure they have their ideas on why, but the movie offers you no explanation as to why this happened, but it does give you clues with a religious mom, and she said, and I like this quote, a dad who's out to lunch.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's interesting. He's a little bit of a...
Shown greatly in the scene where Scott Glenn comes over as the priest.
Yes!
Trying to talk to him. He's just drinking his high life, and he's watching his baseball game. One of his daughters is dead, committed suicide, and he's just kind of... He's like, oh, double play. Yeah. And he is completely checked out. And yeah, what happened to him? Was he suffocated by his own wife or just suburban life in general?
Well, and then you look at both of them. Are they suffocating themselves? True. Right?
Yep.
Like...
Well, then what do they do at the end of the movie when all their daughters die?
They throw everything away and leave.
Throw everything away and leave.
And there's a gutting line where he's like, we got all the photos from...
from the trash.
Yeah.
On the side of the road.
Fuck. And to me, the house is full of crosses and crucifixes, and the indictment begins at the parents, right? And the priest says, so that scene indicts the father as being like just out to lunch, and then the priest goes up to these girls. Their sister has just committed suicide, and he says, you girls can reach out to me if you need to. You know how to get in contact with me. It's like, if that is not holding someone at arm's distance, right? It's like, oh, all of these emotions that you don't know what to do with. If you have the wherewithal to come to, like, what are you talking about? You need to reach out to them.
Yeah, you gotta just sit down and start the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like Danny DeVito's character with the Rorschach test. He kind of just shows her some stuff, and then he writes it down. And then it's like, okay, you're done. And then he talks to the parents. It's like, you're not engaging the person who has the problem.
But what's interesting is that his advice is summarily, they try to follow it, and then they go way the opposite way, right? Where he's like, you need to get her out of the house, you need to get her out of her normal circle, she needs more. And me and you would interpret him as to be correct.
Yeah.
Right? Science is right and religion is wrong.
Yeah.
But is that a coincidence? Would this have happened anyways?
True. Yeah, it's like they dip their toe into it, and then when one bad thing happens, quote unquote bad thing, she comes home late from homecoming, then they go the total extreme of like complete isolation, removed from school, all that kind of thing. So,
what did you think of the fact that they all kill each other, other than the youngest sister? They all kill each other on the same. They kill themselves on the same night, but none of them dies with each other. They all die alone. And did you notice that?
I did notice that. And yeah, they all choose a different way.
Hanging,
oven, sleeping pills. and then
the car.
and then the car. Yeah, literal asphyxiation.
Right.
It's again, I think it's kind of just a statement on their end of just they were all individuals that didn't get their chance to flourish, but they are all kind of thought of as a unit too. So there's probably some deeper symbolism there that I'm not quite seeing, but I also think it's just more dramatic that they all killed themselves in different ways. So.
And I think on just a functional level, I think that's correct. I also think that part of the story is of the boys growing up. Like, they discover these girls, they obsess over them and stuff, and they realize things about life, and they're trying to learn from it. And I think there's something that everyone learns at some point in their life, which is that everyone lives and dies alone, right?
Yep.
Ultimately. Now, that's not to say that, listen, you die, one day you die and every other day you live, right? So that's to say that it's some grand tragedy, like the fact that everyone has to die. That's just the sad reality of life. But we are all our own vessels, right? And there's an area between where I begin and I end and you begin and you end, right? And I'm talking about time-wise, I'm talking about physically, I'm talking about everything. And I feel like in that time, that's when you learn that, when you're a teenager. You know what I mean? That, like, what death... You should have those revelations then. At least I did, as a person. And
interesting you say dying alone is a theme. Spoiler alert for Godfather 3, that's how it wraps up, is Michael Corleone dies of old age all by himself. With nobody around him.
Right.
So it's, that something in the Coppola stream, like, that's a theme that they're exploring. So...
And I think these kids learning from this experience about life, and they in the voiceover they talk about how as they got older they would debate it and go back to it, and it was a real formative thing where they tried to learn from it, but it was difficult for them to learn anything. I think it plays into a thing that goes on in this movie, which is innocence, and all of the teens in this movie feel like children. Which is not how I view teens, or is my experience as a teen, right? For me, and let me know what you think about this, being a teenager is a mix of being a kid and an adult, right?
Yeah. And you're expected to have certain responsibilities that an adult would have.
Right. And you kind of are developing, you're developing in a way an adult, you're becoming an adult, you are an adult in a lot of ways, right? But you're also a kid. It's this mix. That's why it's teen. It's not kid, it's not adult, it's teen.
Yeah. And again, in the time period of this movie, the 70s, these are kind of one of the first batches of teenagers that didn't go fight in a war and die. It's like that concept didn't really exist until the 50s of a teenager.
Yeah, it was invented that.
Usually, you finished school and then you worked on Grandpappy's farm, or you got a job at the factory,
or doing whatever,
or you went to World War II and you died.
Right.
So, but yeah, this is kind of the first crop of people who've ever had to deal with these emotions without having to
be an adult,
get a job, forcibly be shoved into an adult world. Right.
From my life experience and from what I've learned, I don't believe in good old day narratives where we're all innocent and blah blah blah. But in this movie, it really works, and I think they're using that to explore the broader theme of death and oppression, and I think. In my personal, today we're recording this on the 21st of January, which is the big women's rally around the world, and there's something about that. And when I was a teenager, this is something that I didn't understand, which is that, like, I'm like, oh, being a girl isn't harder than being a dude. I thought this legitimately, but I thought it because women hide a lot of their pain, right? And I think that's a theme of this book. I think it's these boys are learning, because there's no intermix. There's a couple of girls on. It's not like side A is a couple girls and a guy or two, and side B is a couple guys and a girl or two. It's divided that way. And I think this movie is partially about them learning about women, the asphyxiation of women, right? That they can be pushed down like that. And I think it's like it's not clearly stated, but these boys are playing football and they do stuff after school, and then. They have interests and they have a GT, and the girls have nothing but their home.
Yep.
There's no hobbies. There's no nothing. You know what I mean? And the little that they have is destroyed. The scene when they burn the records, which is such a great. That's such a what a classic scene where it's like,
it's
like after
your house is gonna get fucking smoky.
after a fiery sermon at the church, she decided to get rid of the girls' records, and it's like, Mom, like,
Aerosmith, Mom,
I need this one.
Not Kiss.
And then it's like, okay, I'll just throw these in the trash to stop this.
Trying to do the like big symbolic gesture, and then realizing, oh yeah, my house is full of smoke now.
Like, these things are not meant to be burnt.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that, I think a really, really cute scene, speaking of this innocence, is when they're playing the records back and forth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a great scene.
And I think a scene that really explores that is the party scene. When right after they, Danny DeVito tells them these girls have to like have male contact, have social events, let them be teenage girls. So they decide to kind of throw this impromptu birthday party. Or it's not even a birthday party; it's just a get together.
Yeah.
And they have some boys over, and it's like an alien's idea of what a party is.
Right. Everyone's wearing like really formal, like Sundays kind of shit.
They kind of look a little Amish. Same with their homecoming dresses, looking a little Amish there.
Yeah, those dresses were very sad.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like it's the basic idea of what a party is, but yeah, nobody's kind of in the flow of the thing, And
that's the thing, is that the parent, they're like, let them interact with boys, but it's like, but we're there. And I mean, I get it.
Yeah, they're kind of lording over it, sort of. Talk to the boys, girls.
Yeah,
but we're right here. Don't you dare do anything.
So yeah, very innocent. Very innocent. Because I mean, I remember like hanging out. It's like, even if we were in a house with parents, we're not in the same room with them.
No. And then you get a much more real kind of hangout scene when they're going to homecoming and they're, smoking pot, drinking beer, and like, that's what like a real teenage hangout session is.
And they weren't raging. It's like they only had like but the 2 beers and but the 1 joint. But it's like
one roach they were passing around, and that was it.
And then they had peppermint schnapps.
Peppermint schnapps, gross. Or peach schnapps. They had peach schnapps.
Why is it gross, Kev?
Because it's just like pure sugar. It's meant to flavor things. You're not supposed to just drink it.
But people say that, but it's like, we live in America. Soda is our national milk.
It is, but I don't know. It's too syrupy for me.
No. Listen,
Some people love it, though.
I'm not begrudging you, but I just feel like everyone likes to talk shit on it, and I'm like, I think if some of these people would talk shit, I'm not gonna name names, but there's someone I was talking to one day, and they're like, yeah, I don't have a sweet tooth.
Yeah.
Drinking a Coke, and I'm like, you don't have a sweet tooth, huh? Drinking your Coke?
It's like,
get the fuck out of here.
You don't even get pleasure from sugar anymore.
This just brings me to normal. And I like how the movie is appropriately styled, where it's shot more or less, not in a flashy way, but then there are some scenes that really call attention to themselves, like when they're talking about a memory of being on a boat and it cuts to 8mm kind of film, like a home movie, not shot like a home movie, but just shot on 8mm.
Exactly.
And then the music video while reading the diary, where it's like, it's like all the girls and like and then there's like the shots that are like split screen, and I feel like none of this is abused. It's all just used really, really well.
And one thing she also works in is like the documentary talking head style that she kind of drops in every now and then.
Yeah.
Just talking to the camera. We get a Trip like way down the line when
he's fucked up.
He's in rehab, and it's that usually that would seem kind of clunky. You'd want the whole movie to sort of be in that structure, but it works really seamlessly. It's just, you just happen to get these scenes of people in a documentary style, like being interviewed, not necessarily, not for the news, they just kind of drop it in there, but it works.
Also, fucking Trip, dude.
Trip Fontaine.
When
he's a magic man.
When he bails on her after waking up, I literally out loud said, "No way! No way!" When she wakes up alone, I'm like, you...
As ungentlemanly as you could possibly be.
And tying it back to that first person narrative, documentary style, when he's like, I just didn't care. Like, I woke up and I just didn't care. And I feel like that, in a very subtle way, speaks to a lot of male-female interaction.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Like,
it's all ideal and achieving a goal. The ultimate goal usually is sex.
Yeah.
that person. But then it's once you hit that, it's do you even want to talk to them afterwards?
Okay, and that's okay. So going back to me admitting when I was in high school, I was like, being a girl isn't harder than being a guy. You know what I mean? And that's the thing because I'm like, and I think that I did not consider is like I would not do that, right? If I was able to appropriately score with a girl, it's like well, let's keep this going. This train is a moving. Let's keep it moving north. Whereas, like, yeah, there's a lot of guys who instantly lose all the respect they have for, and they do that in a way where he doesn't say that, and if anything, he's in complete denial about it, right? He's like, hey man, we had
never
that.
loved anybody like I loved Lux.
And you know, and people, a lot of people don't ever reach that. It's like you are delusional.
Yep.
And he is.
And he's in rehab, so there's that.
Did you, when you first saw this movie, did you see the deaths coming?
I mean, it's called The Virgin Suicides. We know somebody's gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was going to be quite as dramatic a reveal as it was.
In the book, it's a little bit less. No, maybe it isn't. One of them survives in the book,
really?
And then she gets brought home, and then she kills herself later, like soon after.
That seems unnecessarily prolonged for a climax.
I think
I'm glad they kind of just get them all.
It's one of those things that works in a book and doesn't work in a movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like, in the book, I think the person says like no one talked about this. And then a couple of days later, the girl successfully kills herself, and no one talked about that. It's like that level of like, in a code of silence. And I think that in a movie, you really need more people to explicitly state that, which I don't know if that would work.
Yeah.
And just the way it's handled here, I think is really good. So what do you make of the title?
I mean, it's literal in that 4 of the 5 were virgins and killed themselves.
That we know. That assumingly, yeah.
Because obviously Lux loses her virginity on the football field. Ew.
Or hot.
Or hot. That grass looked pretty wet, so Detroit in spring.
Listen, homie. At the moment, she didn't care. And if it ended better, I don't think she would have cared.
She wouldn't have minded. The title.
I think that it is the view they have of them, right? And again, it goes back to how we treat women in society, right? It's like these are the virgin suicides. Like these are the,
they were as pure as could be, like the best ideal of what a young girl could be, and they all killed themselves.
And how do you interpret that? Do you interpret that as factual? They were young and pure and they killed themselves? Is that a burden put on them that they were whatever? Is that at the expense of other people who are, perceived to be, like non-desirable, like junkies or loose or rogues? You know what I mean? There's a lot to unpack there, I think.
Sure, and you can even see it as the idea of innocence being thrown out the window or killed, of just like a literal virgin suicide, in that these girls were not as innocent as their parents wanted them to be, or as society thought they were, and that's okay. They can drink their peach schnapps and smoke a doob, and it's fine. It doesn't shatter the fabric of society. So, but yeah, there's a literal way to take it, and then kind of a more symbolic way to look at it. So I couldn't possibly think of another title.
It's evocative and deliberately vague.
Yes.
Do you think that is there any nitpicks you have with the movie? Because I feel like we both liked it a lot.
Yeah. No major nitpicks. Let me take a look here.
Is there a cemetery union?
That is true. Let's see. As funny as Dominic's little storyline is, I feel like it doesn't really pay off in the bigger picture.
Who's Dominic?
That's the kid who falls for one of the older ladies, and he stands on the window to declare his love, and then he jumps out.
I think it's all. I mean, because he goes away after that, right?
Yeah, it's true. I think it's kind of
their perception of love.
Yeah, a little bit. So just but I feel like it could have done maybe a little more. I don't know. So regardless, it's a funny scene.
The title card says 25 years ago, so that makes it 1991.
Yeah, you could have put a specific year on that. Sophia.
It's your first movie, so that's the biggest flaw in it. I guess you did pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Also, Josh Hartnett has a puka shell necklace.
Yes, he does.
Yikes.
Not a good look.
And I'd say this is a nitpick because the movie's so good, but when the first sister jumps out the window and she's stuck on the fence, that effect does not work.
Yeah, it's a little confused, and it's not the best edited scene in the world, so it's Yeah, it's kind of an odd way to do
It's a rare miss in a movie that's really pretty perfect everywhere else. And I mean, at the end of the day, you understand what happened.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
We know she killed herself. We know the fence was spiky, and it kind of, what's the word? Forebodies, not forebodies.
Foreshadows.
It kind of foreshadows that by showing the fence in certain shots of like really emphasizing like this is a sharp goddamn fence. But yeah, you really need to either see it have stuck through her or get a better sense of how she fell on it. But yeah, it kind of just looks like, I don't know, the way it's blocked, the way it's edited, it just doesn't, it's not the clearest way they could have told that. But we know what happened, so again, a nitpick.
Any cool things you'd like to point out?
I love the kid with Down syndrome. He's got some natural charisma, and
do you think that's a kid with Down syndrome?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's his suit and just kind of his innocence, and they're playing heads or tails, and he always calls heads, and the boys are just kind of making the best of what they realize this is kind of an awkward party, but they're just kind of making the best of it.
Yeah, all very innocent.
That whole scene's great.
Yeah.
James Woods gives a great performance as beta male dad. You know, the scene when he's just kind of looking at the plant, and then the principal's trying to corner him and say, your daughters haven't been in school for 2 weeks. So he's kind of just, oh, yeah.
But I think that moment is a little bit more sinister because he's like, have you checked in the back?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the mom isn't, you know, you're saying beta male, but she's not an alpha gorilla, you know.
No.
She's not.
She could have easily been cliche, like, mommy dearest type mom.
So that's why I go back to the religion, because it seems like they're both oppressed by the religion, you know what I mean? And she's like, oh, you know how I feel about cars and dances, and he's like, I'm going to be a chaperone there. So it's like, you can reason with her until she becomes unreasonable when Lex is out all night. You know what I mean? And I understand if someone I knew was going to meet me somewhere and then they were out all night, I would be upset too.
Sure. But to put them under lock and key because of one incident.
Right. All of them too. It's like,
all of
this girl, why are you punishing all of them? And that goes back to asphyxiation. Yep. And it's also, do we trust these narrators? Because they tell us that, but is that so? You know what I mean? And that's an element on this whole movie, is that this movie is told from the perspective of these boys, and not that the movie ever points out specifically something that we can't believe them on, but do we believe them about everything that they say? Like,
sure. It's the same way we all look at the past. We remember the good things and some of the worst things, and we're always going to filter it through certain aspects of it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they could be unreliable narrators, not maliciously unreliable narrators, but unreliable.
My cool things I want to point out: every phone number is a real phone number. I like that.
Yep, no 555 numbers.
And there's just little bits of period stuff there. Like there's a Kiss stuff, like a kid's wearing a Kiss shirt, and everyone has Kiss records. Yep. It's not like it's overly in your face. You have to look for it to get there, but just the little details. And also, every house that they go in feels like it's a house.
Yeah, just a real suburban house.
And if you open a drawer, it'd be full of whatever, you know what I mean?
Yep. They got a junk drawer in every house.
Yeah. And it feels filled out.
Yep.
Do you think this movie could have been directed by a man? The book was written by a man.
The book was written by a man. I think it could have been, and actually Christy watched this with me and argued that this is actually more of a male-centric movie than a female-centric movie.
I think that could be argued successfully.
It could be argued because it's from their perspective and it is their ideal, but it's their ideal of what makes girls great,
right?
You know. But I think what Sophia brings to it, two words that I kept thinking were tender and ethereal. Mm-hmm. And this is a theme kind of in all of her movies. I don't know how she does it, but there's always kind of this magic haze over all of her films. Mm-hmm. This sort of dreamy cinematography. You know, I don't want to say it looks like Magic Hour, because it's not that. You know, when you're filming like
Sunset. But I get what you're saying. I go in my mind right to it. Yeah,
there's a spell over it, and I don't know how she does it, but it's a very distinct look, and you can tell you're watching one of her films just by like looking at a frame of it.
And I would argue, I think ultimately my answer to this question is, I don't think that if anyone else directed this movie, it just wouldn't be the same movie.
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in anyone else's version of this. Male, female, transgender, gay, straight, black, white. It's like the Sofia Coppola version of this movie is just so interesting.
Yeah. It could easily fall into kind of a teen after-school special tragedy. It could be something much more dark and sinister.
That's the okay, but that's the thing is that it's not overtly sinister. If I made this movie, it would be overtly sinister.
Sure. We'd see the girl's neck hanging and you'd see her head in the oven. But,
Right. You would see it would be meaner. It's not a mean movie.
No.
So I just think that she just did it. She did it.
Yeah, she just brings a completely different perspective to it.
Yeah.
And it's something she's brought to all of her films. Again, I haven't seen The Bling Ring, but she really came into her style pretty quick.
In the ending narration, it says they say we love the boys, like like they're talking. The guy's talking as if he's multiple people, and he's like, we love them. Mm-hmm. Do you think they love them?
They love the idea.
Nailed it.
They love the idea.
Completely agree.
But that's good enough. They never had a bad period with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like James Dean's always going to be young. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah, he died a tragic death, but he's always going to be that ideal. None of these girls got married. None of them got divorced. None of them had nasty fights. They only ever had good memories and good times.
Until the tragedy.
Right.
And they were a mystery.
And they were an ideal.
So in the end, I like this movie. I think it's great. I think it uses the medium to its advantages, and I think any way you slice it it's an amazing movie. It's a delicious steak. That burnt end delicious. That middle part delicious.
Yep.
That bone, the dog finds it delicious.
Yeah, I completely agree. And watching it again, I'm stunned that it's a first film. You can tell that Sophia did her homework. Probably took some advice from her dad. Hopefully from his good movies, not his later ones. But, no, it's incredibly well made. And tells a unique story in a way that only she could have done. Mm-hmm. So. And
I would like, because I saw on the behind the scenes, he was there for a few days.
Yeah.
I gotta think that she talked to him, and I gotta think that he probably told her more technical things. Sure. Like, listen, if you're getting the close up, right, just back up the camera, do a quick lighting adjustment, get the medium, right, and you could do that. Two shots right there. Because I think in terms of flavor and storytelling, they don't feel like it doesn't feel like father like daughter. You know what I mean?
No.
So
it's like. I couldn't imagine Francis Ford Coppola making a movie like this, and I couldn't imagine Sofia Coppola making Apocalypse Now.
Exactly.
While there are certain threads of the DNA that you can see,
right?
In all
they're not the same filmmaker.
They're very different.
Right.
So it's
so no shade we're throwing on her. No. We're giving her all the sunshine.
Give it to her. Let her flourish.
So now that we're done with this episode, what manly thing will you be doing directly after this recording?
Let's see, I already picked my toes with a knife, so I'm going to chop down a tree.
I will destroy the patriarchy.
That boy. Do it. And today of all days.
Indeed. That's it for us. This episode written by Kev, music by Jeff Russell. I'm Mr. Jibber Jabber. That's Kev. And you? Well, we'll just be a mystery to you forever.
But we'll be listening to our Kiss records.